Imagine a firm that rarely makes the news but moves trillions of dollars. That's Jane Street. They are the ultimate insiders of the financial world. Most people have never even heard their name. But right now, they are reportedly eyeing a massive position in the silver market. This isn't just a small hedge, it's a billion-dollar bet that could change everything for precious metals. Why would a firm known for high-frequency trading care about physical silver? The answer lies in a secret trade that is just starting to surface. For years, silver has been stuck in a tight range. Investors have waited for a breakout that never seems to come. But Jane Street sees something others are missing. They aren't looking at the next few weeks. They are looking at a specific price target, $95 an ounce. It sounds impossible given where the price sits today. But look at the data coming out of the global exchanges. Silver supplies are hitting decade lows. Industrial demand for solar panels and electronics is higher than ever, yet the price has remained suppressed. Jane Street is betting that this suppression can't last. How do you move a market that has been stagnant for so long? You wait for the perfect moment of illiquidity. Then you strike. If they execute this trade correctly, the silver market won't just move, it will break. Think about the last time a major commodity saw a short squeeze. The results were chaotic for everyone involved. Now, imagine that happening to a metal used in almost every piece of modern technology. Jane Street doesn't gamble. They use complex mathematical models to find an edge. If their math says silver is undervalued, the rest of the market should be worried. Have you ever wondered who is actually on the other side of your trades? It's usually a firm like this. They thrive on volatility. And they are preparing for a level of volatility we haven't seen in decades. The billion-dollar bet is already being placed in the shadows. Paper contracts are being swapped for the real thing. Physical delivery is becoming the priority. When the big players start asking for the actual metal, the game changes. The current price becomes irrelevant. The only thing that matters is who actually holds the bars. Jane Street is making sure they are the ones holding them. But what happens to everyone else when the price hits 95? The fallout will be massive. Let's look at how they plan to pull this off. It starts with a deep understanding of the COMEX, and it ends with a global scramble for a finite resource. Is the world actually ready for silver to triple in value? Probably not, but Jane Street is ready. The COMEX is where the silver price is set every single day. But most of the silver traded there doesn't actually exist in physical form. It's just a mountain of paper contracts. Jane Street knows exactly how to play this imbalance. They understand that if enough people demand physical delivery at once, the system breaks. Think about what happens when a bank run occurs. Everyone wants their cash, but the bank only keeps a small fraction on hand. The silver market works the exact same way. There are hundreds of paper ounces for every 1 ounce of real metal in a vault. Jane Street is reportedly positioning itself to call that bluff. They are moving billions into positions that require real physical settlement. If the exchanges can't provide the metal, the price has to skyrocket. That's how you get to $95 an ounce. It's not just about supply and demand anymore. It's about a massive systemic failure. Why would a high-tech firm like Jane Street care about a relic like silver? Because it's the ultimate hedge against a fracturing financial system. They see the cracks in the global economy that most people ignore. Inflation might be cooling on paper, but industrial needs are heating up. Every electric vehicle requires a significant amount of silver. The green energy transition is literally built on this metal. And Jane Street has done the math on the global inventory. They know the current stockpiles are dwindling. When the world realizes there isn't enough silver to go around, the panic starts. Have you ever seen a market move vertically in a matter of days? That is what Jane Street is betting on. They aren't looking for a slow climb. They want a violent breakout. Most retail investors are focused on gold, but silver has always been the more volatile sibling. It moves faster and much more aggressively when it finally breaks. Jane Street is using their massive capital to act as the catalyst. They aren't just predicting the move. In many ways, their entry into the market is causing it. Wall Street has tried to suppress silver prices for decades. Big banks have been fined billions for manipulating the precious metals desk. But Jane Street isn't a traditional bank. They are a market maker. They provide liquidity when things are calm. But they extract massive profits when things get chaotic. Is this the moment the silver manipulation finally ends? If a billion-dollar bet is on the table, the answer is likely yes. The leverage in the silver market is a ticking time bomb. And Jane Street just lit the fuse. Look at the volume of silver moving into private vaults lately. It's not just hobbyists buying coins anymore. Institutional money is moving in quietly. By the time the news hits the mainstream, it will be too late. The price will already be on its way to the moon. What does a market break actually look like? It starts with a massive gap up in the overnight trading sessions. Traders wake up to a price they haven't seen in years. Suddenly, the sellers disappear completely. Nobody wants to be caught short when Jane Street is buying. The big banks that usually short silver start to panic. They have to cover their positions, which pushes the price even higher. It becomes a feedback loop that feeds on its own momentum. This is the secret trade that insiders are whispering about. It's not just a bet on silver, it's a bet against the shorts. Jane Street knows these banks are over-leveraged. They are essentially cornering a market that has been artificial for a long time. When the paper price meets the physical reality, $95 is just the beginning. Most people think silver is just jewelry or coins. But Jane Street looks at the industrial consumption numbers. Solar energy alone is consuming a massive percentage of annual production. We are literally burning through the world's silver supply to build the grid. And yet, the mining output has stayed flat for years. New silver mines take a decade to bring online. You can't just flip a switch and get more metal out of the ground. This supply-demand gap is a mathematical certainty. Jane Street thrives on these kinds of structural imbalances. They don't care about the politics of sound money. They only care about the trade that yields the highest return. Is silver the most undervalued asset on the planet right now? Many analysts would say yes, but Jane Street is the only one with the capital to prove it. When a firm of this size enters the pit, everyone else has to move. The ripple effects will be felt across every commodity desk in the world. Gold will likely follow, but it won't have the same percentage gains. Silver is the high beta play for this cycle. It's the metal that breaks the system because it's so small. The total silver market is a fraction of the size of the gold market. That means it takes a lot less money to move the needle. $1 billion bet in gold is a drop in the bucket. $1 billion bet in silver is a tidal wave. Have you checked the premium on physical silver lately? It's already starting to decouple from the spot price. That's the first sign that the paper market is losing its grip. Jane Street is simply accelerating the inevitable. They are using their algorithmic power to front-run the squeeze. By the time the public realizes what's happening, the easy money is gone. The 1% are already positioned for the move to 95. They are just waiting for the rest of the world to catch on. The question is, who will be left holding the bag? It's usually the people who wait for the news to confirm the trend. By then, the secret trade is already over. Jane Street will be looking for their next target. But for now, all eyes are on the silver vaults. The countdown to the break has already started. So, what happens to the global economy if silver actually hits $95? The industrial world would feel the shock immediately. Manufacturers of solar panels and medical devices would see their costs explode. But for the investors holding the metal, it would be the trade of a lifetime. Jane Street isn't doing this to be a hero for the silver bugs. They are doing it because the math is simply too good to ignore. The ratio between gold and silver has been historically skewed for decades. Normally, silver is much closer to the price of gold than it is today. If that ratio returns to its historical average, silver has a long way to run. Jane Street is betting on that reversion to the mean. They see a rubber band that has been stretched way too far. When it finally snaps back, it's going to be violent. Think about the psychological impact of silver breaking its all-time high. Once it clears $50, there's no technical resistance left. It enters what traders call blue sky breakout territory. That's when the FOMO, fear of missing out, really kicks in for the public. Jane Street will likely be the ones selling into that retail frenzy. They buy when it's quiet and sell when the headlines are screaming. Right now, it's very quiet. Most people are distracted by crypto or the latest tech stocks. But while everyone is looking at screens, Jane Street is looking at vaults. They know that physical assets are the ultimate insurance policy. In a world of digital bits, a bar of silver is something you can actually hold. It has no counterparty risk if you have it in your possession. But for a firm like Jane Street, the trade is about the spread. They are exploiting the gap between the paper price and the true cost of acquisition. When the COMEX can no longer bridge that gap, the market breaks. We have seen this happen in nickel and other industrial metals recently. The exchanges simply shut down because they can't handle the volatility. Will the silver market be forced to close when the squeeze happens? It's a very real possibility. Jane Street is prepared for that kind of systemic glitch. They have the legal and financial teams to navigate a market halt. The average investor does not. That's why this is called a billion-dollar bet. It's a high-stakes game played by the smartest guys in the room. If they are right, the wealth transfer will be staggering. Silver at $95 would redefine the commodities landscape. It would prove that even the most manipulated markets have a breaking point. Are we watching the end of the paper-silver era? The signs are all pointing in that direction. Jane Street is just the biggest player to show their hand. The secret trade is starting to become public knowledge. But by the time it's common knowledge, the price won't be $30 anymore. The window for the cheap silver entry is closing fast. Jane Street is already through the door. Now, the rest of the world is starting to realize what's at stake. The billion-dollar bet is on, and the target is 95.